how to not freak out even when your kids are having a hard time. And not even in that moment. The trick is not, and this is why, parenting techniques are useful to get some theory, but this is where they fall really short, because it's already too late. When you are already having the situation, it's useful to know how to help your kids calm down and not escalate it even more by you getting out of control and yelling. But then it's already too late. My biggest interest is in helping you anticipate and clean up whatever precedes that situation. Clean up your family environment, your boundaries, your rules. Renegotiate with the kids depending on their age, depending on the situation. But set some healthy rules and boundaries on how to do that so that you can prevent these big escalations as much as possible. Perfectly imperfect. Again, not here to eliminate 100% of tantrums. That's not possible. Kids, especially between the age of 2 till 5, they are supposed to have big emotions, and it's okay. All emotions are invited, as long as you know how to manage your emotions and you don't feel threatened by the noise they are making. There are lots of moms who are triggered by noise because there was significant noise and trauma from their own childhood. Again, that's why we do one-on-one sessions. But then how do you help your kids through their stuff? And how do you help to prevent it as much as possible? That's where mental fitness comes in. 9 saboteurs, aka 9 trauma coping mechanisms. Okay? Because these are the voices in your head that prevent you from knowing what are healthy boundaries, what are healthy ways of communicating. Because this is what I love the most about mental fitness. Initially, it was developed by Shirzad Chamine, executive coach and owner of a business in Silicon Valley. So they did it for the top dogs, like business executives and multi-billion-dollar companies with thousands of people around the world. That's why they developed it. I trained at it because I used to coach corporate women on their career, how to progress their career. Okay, so that's why I went to that training of mental fitness, so that I can learn for those women to help them progress faster. But because I do and practice everything that I preach to my clients, I started practicing mental fitness, and I started noticing, apart from helping me in my professional business life, the most significant differences I started feeling were in my personal life, in my parenting. I was able to stay calm with my daughter, and moreover, I started noticing that I could clean up those situations. I could clean up my reactions so that my daughter wouldn't even have to go into a tantrum, because I realized I was causing unconsciously a lot of her drama, a lot of her big feelings. It was my fault. And a lot of my mommy tantrums were totally, absolutely my fault. And more specifically, not me, myself and I fault, but what I learned in the mental fitness was it was the fault of those 9 trauma coping mechanisms. Again, going back to the childhood, that's why we are doing childhood trauma therapy, healing. Because if you grew up anything like me, good girl or a good boy, if your parents made you feel like you cannot feel good about yourself unless you fulfill that long list of conditions, okay? If anybody made you feel that you're not worthy, not good enough, you can never say what you want. You can never have big emotions, because if you do, then go to your room and figure it out on your own, and then come back when you're being the nice, smiling, yes, yes, yes girl again, okay? Because like this, when you're frowning, when you're crying, when you're mad, oh, that's not nice. You're not a good girl. Go away. Go away. This, shame on you. How dare you? You have everything. We are giving you so many nice toys, such a nice home. You have a great life. How dare you being mean or angry, frustrated or sad? How dare you? I had such much more messed up childhood. You have such a beautiful childhood. How dare you? Okay. If you grew up feeling anything like this, then in order to avoid the pain of not being good enough and the fear of being rejected, even worse, even more by your parents, ultimately then in the child's mind, the ultimate fear is the fear of death. Because if my parents don't love me, if I'm really so unlovable, and if I make them too mad, they might even stop taking care of me. They might even kick me out on the street, and then I'm not going to survive. So ultimately, the fear of losing your parents' love translates for a small child. The smaller they are, the more they feel like it's really true. It's a fear of death. Okay. And so in order to avoid that pain and feeling that intense fear, what we all do, our smart nervous system, what it does, it develops ways to cope with it, so that you're not completely paralyzed by this fear and you do not have a nervous breakdown at the age of 3 or 4 years old. So then what happens is that these voices in your head, they step in, they start being created. And what I mean by these voices is your own inner critic. So the voice of your parents criticizing you, you make it your own. You hear that voice in your head even when they are not talking, and then you start hearing it in advance. I must do this, I cannot do that. And he's so bad, he just did it and he shouldn't. And this situation is so bad, it shouldn't have never happened. Everything trying to anticipate and prevent the bad situation from happening again, so that your parents wouldn't criticize you and wouldn't judge you and wouldn't leave you, abandon you. Okay, that's the judge. All of us have the judge, yeah? Criticizing yourself, criticizing others, and criticizing the situations. All of us have that. But then on top, what we showed you, those 9 other trauma coping mechanisms, I had hyperachiever, because my mom had the same one. She had the same trauma coping mechanism, feeling not good enough. So, okay, what am I going to do so that I can feel a little bit more like better? Not good enough, but at least not that worse, not that bad. I started hyperachieving. So if there was 100% expected from me, I was trying to do 200. Always trying to do more, even before somebody asked me. Always trying to do better, faster, anticipating, and never being fully happy, celebrating, never feeling good about what I've done, because at any point when I reached the goal, I took one breath and I already started looking at the next mountain to climb. Okay. And it went with me through my childhood, super high achiever, A-star graduate in every school, and always feeling terrible if I didn't get to the top. But then also it continued with me through my corporate career life, which is the thing that kicks butt for so many people, because then you can argue with me and you would be completely right. Aren't there the entire cultures and organizations and societal belief systems based around this? Achieve, push, and be the best, and competition, and work hard, hustle. Yes, they are. Does that mean we are all traumatized? Yes, we are. Because this is where we need to start distinguishing. What is your strength? What is your natural strength? Ambition, drive to do, to achieve. Motivation to do bigger things than what is just like in my little bubble, but helping more people. Those are good qualities. Maybe you have some of them too. But then whenever there was a trauma layer over it, and whenever it's driven by the fear of not being good enough and being abandoned, and the pain of not being worthy enough, then it explodes in your face. And then it's a trauma coping mechanism of hyperachieving. Okay. Once you heal that trauma that's surrounding you and you start achieving, you start doing things out of not feeling lack or pain or fear, but out of the positive intentions, out of knowing, no matter what, I'm going to go through this, I'm going to survive, and it is going to have like a better purpose, bigger reason in the end, it's going to be worth it. If you drive your actions from that place, that's the healthy way how to use your drive and ambition, okay? Without taking it overboard because of the trauma. So that's just an example of a hyperachiever. Why did I just spend so much time explaining that? Because I realized this was one of the things that was killing my relationship with my daughter, that was making me so nervous, burned out, stressed out, to the point that I started yelling at her when she was 1 year old. Because my hyperachiever trauma coping mechanism was overscheduling and overfilling my to-do list. I was never done. Whenever I had a break in my schedule, whenever something happened, my daughter was taken care of, she was peacefully playing, I put something else on my schedule because it felt I would feel guilty, lazy, bad, inefficient, you name it, if I took a break. So in my mind, taking breaks, not okay. Taking time for myself to make myself happy, not just everybody else, not okay. And by the way, that's a pleaser, people pleaser trauma coping mechanism, yeah? If your parents raised you that you can... I had that, and I'm laughing now, but I just remembered. I felt I could never sit on the sofa and read a book, watch TV, do whatever, if my mom was in the kitchen doing something. Because I knew sooner or later she would start shouting or walking around really stressed out, making us all feel guilty. How come she's working and we are sitting on the sofa? So since then, I feel guilty. Well, until I healed it, I used to feel guilty for sitting on the sofa doing nothing or having fun myself. I'm always looking around, and it became so ridiculous. Even for my husband, I knew he wouldn't blame me for anything. He would be like, yeah, for sure, go take your break. But I would feel guilty. I would feel as if he caught me. If he came home and I was sitting on the sofa doing nothing, reading a book, I would feel guilty. So I would even sit for like 5 minutes, and then I would know it's time for him to come back from work. So I would go and make myself busy, not just look busy, but I would be doing some stuff just so that he sees me being busy when he comes home. Anybody else understands what I'm talking about? Any other people pleasers, hyperachievers? Can you start seeing how that's creating your stress and pressure? And then our poor kids, at least I will talk for my poor daughter, this is how she was being the victim of it, yeah? Because by overfilling my schedule, putting so much pressure on myself to be perfect, yeah, perfectionism is another trauma coping mechanism, surprise, controlling, like freaking out, taking your organization and planning skills too far, letting your trauma abuse it, that's also controlling coping mechanism, surprise. The more of them you have in a combination, the more it's preventing you from being able to manage your schedule in a healthy way, create moments to be present and relax, take a break, decompress from the stress and recharge your batteries, and set healthy boundaries with your kids. Because if you're running on those trauma coping mechanisms, most likely you will start giving them to your kids.